So how do we become unaddicted?
Well, the solution doesn't relate to any of the problems. That's the beauty of it. To try to find a solution that relates to a particular problem is just to shift the discomfort to another area of one's life. And so you solve the problem over here. We develop better communication in our relationship because we thought our lack of communication was the source of our discomfort. And then it turns out now I have a physical condition, or I've lost my job, or something else breaks down. And now all of a sudden my source of discomfort has moved over here because I'm uncomfortable in my own being. I feel innately guilty and innately off the mark. Innately, there's something wrong with me. And so if I put a bandage or I salve it up and I feel better in regard to whatever particular nick or cut that is in my life, then it shifts to this, that. So I'm always going to feel, as long as anything could be wrong with me, there's going to be an area in my life in which what is wrong with me is showing up. So I must not be able to solve the problem in terms of making well or making whole or putting right the things that I think are wrong, because that could just be an endless stream. It's just like a lot of spiritual practitioners. They think that forgiveness is the solution in regard to all they need to do in this life. And a lot of spiritual texts, even A Course in Miracles, it teaches that. But when a person tries to apply like one forgiveness for each act of grievance, they just stay here forever, forgiving things, and then four more things show up, four more acts, and grievances show up, or are remembered. Like it'd just be an endless series of forgivenesses if I were to do that in time, and in linear time. So there must be a solution that contains them all, and there must be a solution that, once applied, sort of obviates or negates your need to go back and look at any one of those individual things, problems. And the solution is, A, none of this is real. B, God is real, love is real, and love is totally real. And therefore, anything that's partial cannot be real. And a problem is due to the fact that something's partial. Like I have partial success in my relationship. I have partial success in my job. I'm partially healthy. I'm partially financially well off. I do everything partially well. And the old aphorism, half-hearted measures avail you of nothing. I'm doing everything half-heartedly. I'm split in my mind, I'm split in my motivation, and that is my problem, and that's my only problem. I'm not all one-sided and not one purposed in my life. And so everything that I see reflects my halfness. It reflects that I get a little bit of good and a little bit of evil in everything. And that's my problem. I'm not totally messed up, because if I was totally messed up, I would just kill myself, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm not well. Okay? Because to be well is to be whole. Right. And because I don't feel that I'm well or feel that I'm whole, I have problems which reflect areas in my life where I'm lacking, or areas in my life in which I feel that I am less than perfect. My solution is, none of this is real. My solution is, God is. That means the same thing. And my solution is, everything is perfect and whole as it is. And that it only appears to be lacking or appears to be insufficient. The solution, the truth, in other words, will set me free. The truth is, that's not true. What is true is everything is perfect just the way that it is. The fact that I can't accept it is the source of my discomfort. Sickness is a defense against the truth. Whether the sickness is in my relationship, it's in my sense of financial or permanence and well-being, it's in my body, it's still dis-ease. And it is my defense against everything's perfect just the way it is. That's the solution. Can I apply that solution any moment? Absolutely.
How do I apply it?
I affirm it. I stop telling the story of what's wrong, and I tell the story of what's right. It's all right. And then I hold on for dear life until that configuration, until that image, until that picture begins to show up, because I've affirmed that as the truth. I've affirmed the other is the truth, and that's exactly what shows up in my life. Lots of evidence that I'm right. When I begin to tell the story, all is well, God is, all is perfect, that begins to show up in my life as evidence that I'm right. Because it's the truth.
Right.
And because it's actually the truth, it has a lot more support. It'll show up a lot more profoundly. It'll show up a lot more consistently than my inconsistent picture that shows up now. Because it is the truth. It's without exception. It doesn't have an opposite. It doesn't have any exception. So the only way my universe is ever going to get all one way is if it is through my affirmation of the truth. So I invest it first with a little faith. It sounds good that everything's true. I mean, that everything's perfect and whole. And I want it to be true. So I have a little bit of motivation, a little bit of willingness to invest in it. And I begin to invest it by telling it as a story, asking for help to see it that way, asking for a little bit of divine, adjustment in my perception, so that I can begin to see what is truly beautiful, perfect, and whole as beautiful, perfect, and whole. And then I'm convinced by fact. I'm convinced by evidence. But in the meantime, I begin because I like that version of the story better. The version that I was mistaken. That actually everything is right. And I was wrong. That's the one thing I've never allowed myself to invest in. I've always wanted to be right and make everything else wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.